Hey, good afternoon, guys and gals. Will Snyder here. Some of you have asked how I do my weathering on these coal hoppers, so I thought I'd do kind of just a real quick summary of what I do and kind of a step-by-step thing here. I've already started these 4 hoppers, and as you can see, I've got the interior part of the hopper pretty much done, but basically what I do is I start with Vallejo. I found this at Hobby Lobby. It's Vallejo metal colors, and for the interior of the hoppers, I prefer to give it a coat of silver, and then I give it a overcoat of the steel color. And then after I do the steel color, and that has dried, then I like to use AK Products Crusted Rust. And I kind of go over lightly the whole interior of the car, letting a lot of the metal show itself through. So after that has all dried, then I start using AK Products Rust Effect colors. Get this pack at Hobby Lobby, and it's basically from a very dark rust all the way to a light rust, different shades. And I've already started some of these hoppers, and as you can see, I use what's called the chipping color, which is the darkest, and I started making places on the hopper that I want to show rust, and working from darker to lighter. So my next coat will be this old rust, and basically I like to put this on with these makeup Q-tips. Any good beauty shop has these. I like them because of the pointed end plus the flat end for working and spreading some of the rust out. So I'm going to go ahead and start into the next coat of old rust and show you what I have. And basically, it's just I use a palette, dip the Q-tip into the color, and then I come along and dab it where I want. And let me go ahead and get a color on it, and I'll show you. So as you can see now, I've applied the second color, Old Rust, and the idea is to try not to totally cover up the chipping color, but you're applying a color or a layer on top of that, and then you're going to advance to the next color, which would be Dark Rust, and then I usually finish it up with a medium rust. I every now and then use light rust, but not all that often. So there's one side of this hopper finished with 2 coats chipping and dark rust. Let me flip this around and see if I can kind of show you what I do here. I just dip Q-tip in there and then come along. And I think I got a little much here. So as you can see, I'm just applying right over top. I take my flat part of my brush and streak that down a little bit. Again, trying not to cover up the chipping rust or the first color. So that would be 2 of the colors. Hold on, and we'll do the third. So I did want to show before I go to the next color on this particular car, I'm doing some places where it had probably sideswiped other equipment. And as you can see, I kind of touched the second color there, the old rust, and then I took the flat part of the Q-tip and then streaked it downward so it looks like rust that is running. And of course along the top. And don't worry about it if it's not perfect, because there's more color to go on. Although don't get too far ahead of yourself. These are acrylics and they will dry fairly fast. All right, stand by. Okay, so now we're going to go with dark rust, a fresh new Q-tip, and into the dark rust. And again, you're trying not to cover up a lot of the color you've already put on there, but adding a third layer. See, I got that a little heavy, but I'm not going to panic. Just take the flat part and spread it out a little bit. Just not quite liking how that looks, so I'm going to work with it just a little bit more. There we go. Now I'm pretty happy with that. All right, let me finish up this color of dark rust, and we'll get back to the next. Okay, so one of the things I did want to take note of is, if you notice looking at the cars, I'm doing various degrees of weathering. This car is fairly newer, 3-pocket B&O car, as opposed to this 2-bay hopper, which is a little older, seen a little more service, and it has, you know, places where rust is actually, the metal's deteriorating, and you're starting to get those crusted, bubbly, where the metal gets distorted type look. So as you can see, looking close up, I'll try to let a lot of the other colors bleed through. And our next step now will be, that was the old rust. Now we're going to go to a medium rust, and that'll pretty much finish the sides of the hoppers of what I'm trying to accomplish. So hold on, we'll show you the light color. Okay, so here's an example of the light rust, and you can see on this particular spot, I took the flat end of the Q-tip, and once I applied the light rust, I took the clean flat end and just kind of dabbed the middle so that it would pick some of that light rust back up, and some of the older rust would bleed through the middle. So you can see the various layers of colors now starting to form, and it's starting to get there. It's starting to look a little bit like a serviced used car. All right, hold on for the next step. Alrighty, well, I've got the sides pretty much how I want them, and what we're going to do now, we're going to take the AK old rust, the dark rust and medium rust, and we're going to mix a little bit in the airbrush, and we're going to go back in and we're going to hit these side areas on the inside of the hoppers and down into the bay. Basically, kind of spread a light coat of rust around two shades, so that the cars aren't so clean and new looking on the inside. They look like they have a little bit of service to them. So hold on, we'll mix. I'll shoot one color, show you a pick, and then shoot the next color. Okay, so if you can hear me all right, just to show you, I'm just airbrushing right along the top of the car on the inside, and then I'm going to hit down in around the hopper bay. Okay, so another thing I'm doing is, after I've sprayed the inside of the car and I still have this dark rust mixed up, you can barely see it here, but I'm just kind of spraying. See, this is hard to do. I'm spraying right around the rust on the sides just to kind of feather it out a little bit. Hold on, let me spray it and I'll give you an idea what it looks like. Alright, so anyway, you can see how I did just along the tops of the inside, and then out around along the bottom. And that was with the dark rust. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the medium rust, and you can see where I just lightly hit it with the airbrush around areas that I've already rusted with Q-tips. Okay, so that finishes it up with all the AK rust effects. And yeah, you can see down in there was some old coal that was glued in place, but we're going to cover that with new coal. Anyway, the next step is going to be using another AK product. It's called AK Dust Effects. And basically, I'm going to give it a light coating around the whole base of the car and on the ends, so that you can see where the car has kicked up, a lot of the ballast, dust, and dirt, and kind of sticks towards the bottom of the car. All right, stand by for this part of it. Alrighty, so I got the dust effects on. You can kind of see that's all that typical ballast dirt that kicks up along the bottom of a car, and it helps kind of age the car some. So now we're getting into the final steps, and this is where we switch over to powders. And basically what I'm going to be doing is taking all these rusted spots and giving them texture, so that it kind of brings that to life. And then I'm also going to use a darker reddish old rust around the trucks and the springs, where they would typically have been rusted a lot longer. Also, do keep in mind that the quality of this video, I'm not a video maker. I'm just trying to, some people wanted to know how I weather my cars, and I'm just trying to help. So, all right, well, anyway, let's get ready to do the next step. And that is using, as soon as I'll find them. These are Vallejo pigments. And basically I use, this one is the brown iron. That's what I use around the trucks. And then I'll go over a light coat with old rust and another coat with one that's just called rust. So let me get to working on that, and we'll wrap this video up. So the first part of the powders is doing the trucks, and it's just hitting them with that old rust in around the spring areas, the journal boxes. And then you can see I do like to take a Q-tip, dip it into the powders, and put it on the face of the wheel and spin it and spread that powder all around the wheel, which I think gives it a really nice look. Let me finish these other cars up, and then we'll get to the next color. So again, I'm working from darker to lighter, and here's like a before I put the next coat of powders on, and here's the after. And you can see it adds a little texture. So now the paint starting to look less like paint and look more like rust deposits. So here you can kind of see this is the second medium coat of powders put on. Also, I add some powders, if you notice, right along the top of the slope sheet. I just kind of dab it in there with a Q-tip and let the loose powders kind of fall down into the hopper. I've got one more to do. We got the light coat of rust, just a little here and there, and that about wraps these hoppers up. Okay, so that kind of wraps it up, and I'm going to show you all four hoppers, all four sides. The first one, the PLE hopper, fairly new, just a little bit of road dust on it, a little bit of oxidation going on in the hopper itself. Let's turn this around. And again, you can see it's just a light road dust, a little bit of weathering around the trucks, as this car has not seen service too terribly long.